Welcome back to Truth Hurts, where we expose corrupt politicians and lying corporate media. I'm Jake Duesenberg, your host, broadcasting live from Roseville, Minnesota, in the belly of the beast, the liberal zombie apocalypse of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Not joining me today is Mega Jesse. Now, I'm just going to say this, Dawson, who's running the dials. Hi, Dawson. How you doing?
Doing good, doing good.
Some might think, oh, Jake, you didn't want to have Jesse in because you're going to kind of rip on Trump a little bit today. It's like, no, I didn't. That's not at all. He's a little under the weather. I honestly, I wake up this morning and I find out that Congress indeed passed the one big beautiful budget bill, which just if you think about a lot of things that we say and fiscal conservatives say is that you shouldn't pass multi-subject omnibus bills, and they literally call it one big beautiful bill. Like, I mean, shouldn't just by the name alone be why we're against this bill? Like, it just seems ridiculous. But, in the end of the day, it's like, well, if it's a bill full of good things and it actually reduces the budget deficit, maybe pays down the debt, that seems like a pipe dream these days, well, then maybe it is good. One big, beautiful bill, but it's not that. I think everyone understands it's not going to be that. Dawson is running our dials. Dawson, do you have any idea about this subject? Is this like foreign to you?
So the only thing that I've seen about this, I have seen no breakdowns of it or anything like that. The only thing that I've seen on social media is the taxes on tips, which I think are part of this, that is like people aren't happy about because it's only like cash tips or something. I don't know the fine print, but that's all I've heard of it. So it's all new.
And listen, mind you, when you have one big, beautiful bill, you're going to have good things in it. You think I'm against tax cuts? Absolutely not. I am very pro-tax cuts. What I am against is, well, let me just put it this way. If you add to the deficit, if you're overspending, that is a tax, right? I don't think people talk about this enough. Overspending is a tax. It's either a tax on, future consumption, right? It's future behavior because they got to pay back the debt, or it just deteriorates the value of your dollar. And so it's a tax that it's like an invisible tax. You don't see it. And it most adversely affects the elderly and the poor. The elderly who are on fixed income and the poor who are on the lowest part of the economic ladder. And so, and of course, Democrats' record on this stuff is abysmal. And so they always act like, well, we're for the little guy. It's like, no, you're not. You're not at all for the little guy, because what you do, your reckless spending, actually hurts them far more than the billionaires you always talk about. Oh, the billionaires getting all these tax cuts. And that's the other lie about this thing. It's like the Trump tax cut for the rich. It's like, no, the Trump tax cut is for everybody. It's good. I mean, why can't the rich also benefit from a tax cut? Aren't they the big job suppliers in this economy? But it's not just for them. It's for the average household. So it seems to me that's a good thing. However, the spending part is what we're going to concentrate on today. And I don't think there's a lot of other people that are going to get on top of this subject. And I think there's a little fracture in the MAGA world because of this. And I know a lot of people have this hope in Donald Trump, and I don't have much hope on Donald Trump on fiscal issues. I didn't vote for Donald Trump for this issue. In fact, I went in voting for Donald Trump knowing he was terrible on this issue. But there's so many other things about Donald Trump that's like, he's going to be much better than Kamala Harris. And in some regards, he was better than pretty much anyone else that could have ran. And I'm not quite convinced there was another Republican in the primary that would have been better on this issue. I don't care what Nikki Haley said on the debate stage. No one believes her for a second she was going to be a fiscal hawk, right? If Trump is making the military $1 trillion in spending, she would have been $1.5 trillion. So, and we are spending so much more than the next country. And the next was like the next 30 countries combined on defense spending. It's like we can't find a cut with the defense budget, and they never pass an audit. Like, we can't find one penny to cut out of the defense budget. So absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so let's get into the show. Our sponsor today is Warren Wessel of Keller Williams Realty. If you're looking to buy home or sell home, give Warren a call at 612-419-7453. And if you're buying home, go to the good guys at John Galt Mortgage Company. Go to johngaltmortgage.com or check them out on Facebook or X. Also, we're brought to you by Alpine Country in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Okay, Dawson, we all know that only good things happen after midnight, right?
Government-wise, yeah, definitely.
Like, when did this bill pass? Oh, I don't know. It was like, what, 2 in the morning? I don't know. I don't even know. I woke up to it this morning. It passed in the middle of the night. Only good things happen in the middle of the night. Let's pull up. Let's just level set here right off the bat. A1. Let's pull up the deficits. This is a projection of deficits. This is the Treasury.gov. Dawson, would you scroll down? You're going to see. Keep going. You're going to see a bar chart. It's going to be orange with a blue on the end. Keep going down. One more down, you see U.S. deficit by year. Okay, so this is where deficits have been. I don't know if you could zoom in a little bit, but essentially, it actually is funny because it goes back to fiscal year 2000 when we ran a surplus. Because remember on this chart, if this is a deficit and it's negative, that means it's a surplus. So there was a surplus. It sounds so weird to say that, but there was a surplus. About 25 years ago. Ever since then, we've been on a path of deficit spending. You see a big spike during the Great Recession. This is where I started writing, and this is actually when I got back involved in politics because I saw a massive problem. All these trillions of dollars are adding to our national debt, and it's going to be financed through artificial low interest rates, and eventually when those interest rates go up, we got a problem. I'll get into that in this episode. But I mean, you could see it was $1 to $1.5 trillion. That's when I was complaining. That's when I started complaining. Is $1 to $1.5 trillion, and we're just ballooned up since then. I mean, the idea of even going down to that these days seems far stretched. So that was immediately following the Great Recession, and of course they do this. They didn't raise taxes per se. What they did is they just inflated our dollar bill. They did something called quantitative easing, where the Federal Reserve prints money, actually adds zeros to a balance sheet, and then buys up government debt, as if that's a pathway to prosperity.
I never knew that we had a deficit this low before. Like, I gained sentience around 2010, so I've only ever known this crazy high.
What does it say? What was the amount?
This one 2007 is.
So yeah, $160 billion.
And then back trillion, and then down here it was a negative deficit.
Yeah.
I don't even know what.
Yeah, that was a surplus.
That's
right?
crazy. That blows my mind nowadays.
It does blow your mind. And, we act like that's nothing, but $160 billion in a deficit is still, what is that? If the state of Minnesota's budget per biennium is $66 billion, so it's roughly 4 years of government spending in Minnesota. Seems to be a pretty big deficit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but trillions of dollars is what we're dealing with now. Go back to that chart real quick. Now, I wrote about this in 2020, and this was Trump's fault here. Congressional Republicans and Trump, they were saying COVID's a big disaster. We need to bail people out. We need to send money to people, basically businesses and people, and it ballooned up to $3 trillion. That $3 trillion, I mean, we didn't have it. We were already way in the hole. So what they did is they really went to the printing press that year. And then I, of course, wrote about this, like, well, we're going to have inflation, guys. We're going to have price inflation. Geez, Jake, you're some economic genius. No! Anyone with any common sense knew if you just print money out thin air, eventually when the economy gets rolling along, we're going to have inflation. It just seemed very obvious to me. I wrote about it, actually, on Action for Liberty in March of 2020. Then Biden takes over. Biden is a big spender. Democrats are big spenders. I'm not telling you something you don't know. The only hope I have is in the Republican Party, which at least has some real fiscal hawks. Trump not being one of them, despite what he says. But there are fiscal hawks in the Republican Party. The Democrats don't see a problem anymore with spending your money. They're so socialistic that they want as much of our economy to be government as possible. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's some that are just pure communists and want the entire economy to be by government, but that would just be a terrible thing. I see Andy's in the show, O'Bannon's in the show. Sorry, I can't read everyone's comments here.
Oh, yeah,
if you want to interrupt me at any time, hit a Rumble rant, and I'll read your comment live on air. What's that, Dawson?
We've got all the way Tucker, Hate Men, Truth Wins, T-Wall for Life, Brad Ganser. We got a full house today.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, guys. We were lacking people. I actually asked Andy if he wanted to come on the show. What's he doing watching, Andy? He said he's got a new job. He's got to be. I didn't think he could do the show today. But anyhow, also Gunner wasn't available. So, I don't think we can afford to have Mega Jesse sick. And I'm just so worried that he's going to be like, oh, yeah, of course, you want to rip on Trump today, right? You know, like, oh, because he's not here.
He felt.
I actually was like, when I was going to pitch the idea at the pre-show meeting, I was like, what's he going to say about this? I really would love to hear Jesse's opinion on it. I don't think it's deniable, the things that I bring up. Okay, so once again, deficit problems. And as you can see, under Biden, huge issues. And in my opinion, you should be the exact opposite of Biden. We should be going right back down. And Biden, you know, there's a big drawback after the big COVID expenditures, but then Biden just went right back up. And Congressional Republicans, you know, to be fair. Tomorrow night, Jake, on my show. No, you said tonight, Andy. I can't do tomorrow night. You got to do tonight. Andy wanted me on his show to talk about this issue, and I can't do unless you're publishing tomorrow night and we record tonight. Just so you know, Andy, I can't do tomorrow night. I can do tonight, which I'd be happy to do. Okay, Dawson. So this goes down in the wee hours. Let's go to A2. This is Republican Rep Warren Davidson, who, honest to God, I mean, I know who he was. I haven't really heard his name too much. He's not like one of the guys that's been voting against the speakers and stuff like that. And he's been around since Boehner got out of office. So all of a sudden, he is one of two guys that voted against us. And this is a segment with Aaron Burnett on CNN. Go ahead and play it.
As it stands right now, Congressman, do you plan on voting for this bill?
I mean, if it came to the floor in the form that I've seen it most recently, I couldn't vote for it. Even, look, the CBO score doesn't give credit for dynamic growth. I do believe in the 10-year model. You actually grow the economy and you shrink the deficit, and I think it's a good bill if we were going to do a 10-year plan. But, you know, even the communists only did 5-year plans. Congress never sticks to a 10-year plan. The problem is the Congress that we control, the one we're in right now, it grows the deficit. And, you know, if future Congresses just follow our example, they will grow the deficit and promise that some future Congress will cut spending. And that's how we're $36 trillion in debt. Everyone says, oh, well, we're going to raise the deficit now, but trust us, in the future, it's going to get under control.
As it stands
very
right
good.
now,
So click on Warren Davidson's name there, Dawson, real quick. He actually put up a chart. I shared this on my Twitter account, my X account, somewhere in here. Keep going down, keep going down. Is it not on here? Am I smoking dope? Am I forgetting it? It seems like it was. It should have been way above there. I swear to God, maybe this was a different account. Yeah, maybe it was a different account. But yeah, anyhow, he shared what the deficit impact was. Actually, if you just go to my X account, you should be able to find it on there. Brad says, Jake, I could have made it in today. You know, Brad, I thought about for a very second, go down. There you go, right there. This is Warren Davidson. Oh, yeah, it was a different account. That's why. The impact that he had. Brad, I had briefly thought about it, but you never seemed to be able to do it. So I was like, I'm not going to bother Brad anymore. So don't you dare lie to me. If you could have done it, I could have done it. O'Bannon says, Jake, can you commit to just calling it Twitter? I probably should.
I think that the public market has deemed it to just be Twitter.
Well, you see it. People.
I mean, it does say X, but what is X? X is also dumb. It's bad branding.
Yeah. All right, Dawson, pull up my chart I just created before we went live. Now, I put this on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. The numbers are not readily available. So what I did is I put together a chart from the numbers that are out there so far. So in blue, you'll see what the projected deficit is by the CBO. This is based off their January 2025 report. And as you can see, I mean, this thing is pretty darn high. We are roughly, it's nowhere under in this chart is a deficit going under $1.5 trillion. And it spikes in the years 2033 and 34 to over $2.5 trillion. These are massive problems. Now, I think it's important to say a deficit is an annual measurement. So how much more you're spending than you take in. If outlays exceed receipts, if expenditures exceed revenues, however you want to call it, right? Then you have a deficit.
Can you explain this a little bit more to me? Because I'm trying to understand exactly what's going on. Should the blue bar be higher than the red bar, or should the red bar be higher than the blue? What is the goal here?
So if if this budget bill was something that was actually reducing the deficit, the red bar should be lower than the blue bar in every year. Okay.
Okay.
You can see there's a small change lowered in the remaining part of the fiscal year 2025, which would end September 30th this year. Then you see how the red bar exceeds the blue bar.
Yep.
In many regards, it's a result of the tax cuts because there's going to be less revenue they project from it. They do increase spending this year, so fiscal year 2026, by $350 billion, right? We should be lowering. Republicans run on decreasing the size of government, but they're increasing it.
In the perfect world, are both of these bars going downwards? Like, are they getting less and less?
No, because you can't change the blue. That was the projection that they had.
Gotcha.
So then the Congressional Republicans get a chance at trying to reduce the deficit, and you can see they're not reducing the deficit until fiscal year 2030. Now, the problem with that, Dawson, is that's 5 years down the road. And this is the same argument I made in Minnesota. You guys, there's no telling you'll be in charge of Congress by then. So the Democrats could get in charge and completely change it. So if you actually want to make monumental cuts to the government, you got to do it now. Show us that you're willing to do it now, but they're not for 5 years.
Does that ring bells to you that this is like something that they can run on in 4 years or whatever and say, look, see, the trajectory will bring it down, but if you elect someone else in, interesting.
Yes, because that's how politicians act and behave.
Yes,
and do you know how hard it is? Because I really want to get you guys the numbers this morning. And just quite frankly, CBO didn't even have all the estimates done. But luckily there were some things that we could put it together and get a pretty accurate picture. The way that they talk about this, especially deficits versus debt, they're so deceiving. I mean, we talk about this in the state level all the time. They're so deceiving in how they dress it up, make it sound good. I just want to see the raw numbers. And it turns out, and deficit means how much more you're spending than you take in per year. The debt is something different. Every year you have a deficit, that deficit is added to the national debt, okay? So when people say this adds to the deficit, sometimes they mean it adds to the debt. Or they say it increases the deficit. You could decrease the deficit, but still increase the debt. Does that make sense? Like if you're overspending by $1 trillion, and then you cut that deficit, so you're only overspending by 500 billion. I'm sorry, did I say trillion?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If you're overspending by $1 trillion, and then you cut that in half, and you're only overspending 500 billion, you cut the deficit, but you're still adding $500 billion to the debt. In other words, if you have a $37 trillion in credit card debt, and you're overspending by $10,000 a year, and instead of overspending by $10,000, you only overspend by $5,000. You still added $5,000 to the credit card debt. You see, they play this game like, oh, thank you, you wonderful politicians. You decreased our deficit, which they aren't even doing until year 5, just so you know. They're actually increasing it. But thank you so much for decreasing the deficit. It's like, no, you're still robbing my kids of future prosperity because it's adding to the debt. That's why if I was in Congress, I would never vote for any budget that wasn't balanced. And honestly, you almost have to go the opposite direction. You should have such surpluses that when the debt matures, and we're going to get into how big of a problem this is going to be, but when the debt matures, you actually pay it down. You don't just reissue the debt. And that's all we do. We just reissue the debt. We never pay it off, right? It's like you just keep the credit card going. It's a massive problem. Crucified 1993 says, good afternoon. Good to see you, Crucified 1993. I hope I'm not missing anyone, but I'm probably missing a ton.
This is a lot of numbers.
I know.
The last time I took a math class was in high school, so I am all this is gone.
Well, and I'm always so hesitant to talk about the subject because I know people go, oh, God, numbers and, the deficits. And no, I get it. I get it. It's tough to talk about. I actually invited Thomas Massey on the show. Apparently, he is resting up. I don't understand, Thomas Massey. Why can't you get on a show after pulling an all-nighter? I don't blame him. I don't blame him one bit. And that is the guy that I think has made the loudest noise on this. Good on Warren Davidson for coming along and talking about this stuff. Let's go to the A3 Dawson. This is Thomas Massey. I'm assuming, 2 a.m. in the morning, has to go to the floor, talk against this bill. Now, all the Democrats, they're not principled here. They voted against the bill. They're not principled. They don't want anything to go to Trump. They don't want him to have any victory. They probably don't want the tax cuts and some other things. But quite frankly, this is really just funding government again, and they should be they're really not upset about this thing. Let's just be honest. They'll complain about it to their people. They're not upset about this. They're fine. Government's still being funded. The swamp continues on. They'll be good. They'll use this as an attack agent against the Republicans, and maybe they'll take back the U.S. House of Representatives, and then they'll change everything, and then the Republicans' one opportunity to actually slash government goes away. But anyway, here's Thomas Massie on the House floor yesterday.
The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized for 90 seconds.
Well, I'd love to stand here and tell the American people, we can cut your taxes and we can increase spending and everything's going to be just fine. But I can't do that because I'm here to deliver a dose of reality. This bill dramatically increases deficits in the near term, but promises our government will be fiscally responsible 5 years from now. Where have we heard that before? How do you bind a future Congress to these promises? This bill is a debt bomb ticking. Congress can do funny math, fantasy math, if it wants, but bond investors don't. And this week, they sent us a message. Moody's downgraded our credit rating, and the bond investors who buy our debt and finance our debt demanded higher interest rates on the 10-year note, the 20-year note, and the 30-year note. What does this mean? Very soon, the government will be paying $16,000 of interest alone per U.S. family. And what are we telling them? Instead of taking care of that problem, we're going to give you a $1,600 tax break. Under the taxing and spending levels in this bill, we're going to rack up, the authors say, $20 trillion of new debt over the next 10 years. I'm telling you, it's closer to $30 trillion of new debt in the next 10 years. Mr. Speaker, we're not rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic tonight. We're putting coal in the boiler and setting a course for the iceberg. If something is beautiful, you don't do it after midnight. I oppose this bill.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Okay, now, it's actually interesting. I don't know where he gets the $30 trillion from. Even the $20 trillion, if you ask Grok, you ask all the AI, which I realize aren't that accurate on this subject, and it's complex, I get it. But I couldn't even find articles about this $20 trillion until I actually put the figures in. Go back to the chart. If you just look at the figures alone,
Which chart?
the chart that I sent you via email, the one. So I had to create this thing. This isn't out there. So there you go, proprietary right here to Truth Hurts. Maybe I should know what I'm doing and brand it, right? No, I don't want my branding on this piece of shit. But it does fall in sync with what he's saying. Deficit reduction doesn't begin until year 5. So you see, it's at least at $1.5 trillion each year. The red is what the big beautiful budget bill puts as a deficit. So when you add that up, and I got the spreadsheet right here, it's $21 trillion added to our debt in the next 10 years. So there's his number, you know. So he says that even the authors, and I'm sure this was behind closed doors, admit it's $20 trillion. Now, no Republicans going around telling you it adds $20 trillion in debt. That'd be very unpopular to their constituency. What they then focus on is, well, it reduces the deficit. And, of course, they talk about reducing the deficit down the road. And I literally think people are supposed to believe, oh, well, they're actually reducing the debt. You see what I'm saying? You see that little sleight of hand? Oh, no, Republicans, I know it's 5 years down the road, but they're reducing the debt. No, they're reducing the deficit. Actually, they're reducing they're reducing from the projected deficit. Right? So they should be zero balanced budgeting every time, right? Or zero based budgeting every time. But it's just the projection they're reducing from that. It's still adding the debt. It's going to add $21 trillion.
So just from like big picture stuff, why would Republicans be signing on to this if the point is like they don't want bigger government at all? Like, why is Trump even touting it? Like, would anybody tout it if
Trump is not a small government Republican. In fact, he wasn't even a Republican before he ran. Okay.
So they're okay with
I mean, literally, and I said this on the show many times, I did not vote for Trump on this issue. I thought they were both about equally bad on this issue. Okay. There's an argument for Trump here Don't let me forget to bring that out, because this is like the one hope that Trump could bring. I'm not going to bet money on it, but it's a better argument than Kamala Harris. They're both terrible on spending. Trump at least gives you hope that he could expand the economy, because I do think he really wants to expand the economy. Okay. He is a business guy, okay? But yeah, it is increasing the debt over a 10-year term to $21 trillion. So what does Trump do? This was on Tuesday. What does Trump do when Massey is coming out there on the media and talking principally about this problem with debt? Well, let's hear Trump in his own words. This is the A4, Dawson.
Biden did, and this bill kind of...
Because we have to fix the country.
Do you think that Thomas Massey is correct in saying that this is adding Biden levels?
No, I don't think Thomas Massey understands government. I think he's a grandstander, frankly. He'll probably vote. We don't even talk to him much. I think he should be voted out of office, and I just don't think he understands government. If you ask him a couple of questions, he never gives you an answer. He just says, I'm a no. He thinks he's going to get publicity, and you have that. You have that. They've got some too. Go ahead.
Mr. President, on Medicaid, do you want
it's so interesting that Trump is, in some regards, the most honest politician I've ever seen in my life, which is funny because it sounds so weird to say that, because, like, there are things he says, you're like, I can't believe he just freaking said that. Like what he did to the South African president yesterday in the Oval Office. Yeah. And at the same time, he lies all the time. That's a lie. Like Thomas Massey does not give explanations. Like, oh, he just says no. I mean, Thomas Massey is very vocal on the exact reasons he's against this thing. And Donald Trump, you're not a fiscal hawk. Anyone that would say, no one believes that. You're not a fiscal hawk. I'm not trying to bash and hate on Donald Trump. He is who he is. We always knew this about Trump. If you're being honest, he's never been good on this issue. And every time he said, maybe I just made too many excuses. Every time he says on the campaign trail, it just goes through one ear and out the other ear, because the record shows he wasn't good on the budget deficit when he was in office. With the caveat, I got to put this caveat out there, that at least he gives you hope that the revenue side could increase because of an expanded economy. So let me get to that argument here real quick. Just imagine you have $37,000 in credit card debt. Okay, that's what our national debt is, $37 trillion. So on a household perspective, let's just say, no, actually, I got to give it a household perspective. You have $370,000 in credit card debt. You make, that was funny. Like,
Thank you.
You make $50,000 a year, and you spend $70,000 a year, and you have $370,000 in credit card debt. Okay. That debt is a massive problem, dude. That is our federal budget, just so you know. That's our federal budget, okay? That's why, pull up the A6, Dawson. The A6 shows, this is Moody's. There's only a couple really legitimate bond rating companies. Moody's is one of them. And they downgrade the U.S. credit rating. And this was, what did this come out on Tuesday? Based off of this, no, this was on Monday. Moody's ratings downgrade Moody's ratings downgrade the U.S. credit rating, citing an inability of the nation to address large and growing deficits. This downgrade means that for the first time ever, all three major credit ratings agencies have downgraded the U.S. credit below their top rating. Moody's warns, same as lawmakers are considering the budget reconciliation legislation that would make America's fiscal situation significantly worse. Now, going back to my example of like a household, there's no way you would be any bank is going to loan to you. The only reason they just slowly bring down the debt rate or the credit rating of the United States, well, I think some of it is political, to be honest with you, but it's also that they have the printing press. The government won't default on its debt. They'll just print more money. You can't do that in your household budget. So if you make $50,000 a year and you spend $70,000 a year and you have $370,000 in credit card debt, common sense says you at least need to cut $20,000 in spending every year, right? At least. Because then you're not adding to that credit card debt. The interesting thing about credit card debt is we all know the interest rate on that credit card debt would be staggering, and that's going to be the problem. I'm going to get to that. But there is a other option out there, and this is where Trump gives you a little bit more hope over Kamala Harris. If Trump is able to expand the economy, get out of the way, let business thrive, bring in new deals, maybe the debt is minor in relative to the new GDP. Okay, so to go back to the household example, The other way, the $370,000 isn't much of a problem.
So if you make more money.
Yes, if you all of a sudden go up to $200,000 a year, and then that debt's going to be paid off in a couple of years, and the $70,000 is under-consuming. You see what I'm saying? Like, if there's this huge expansion of the economy, that's the other example. Now, that's the bet that you make. He's not a fiscal hawk. Trump is not a fiscal hawk. He's terrible on that issue. But if you look at Kamala versus Donald Trump, who do you think is going to be more helpful to the expansion of our economy? Clearly Donald Trump, right? Clearly Donald Trump. He's a business guy. Kamala Harris is a quasi-socialist. Quasi, because she likes markets in some regards, but likes full government operation. Razzle-dazzle. Better late than never. Hope we're not talking about that plane again. What plane?
That's old news.
Oh, no, we're not talking about the plane, which I think we did a good job destroying that narrative.
You and I, we reached settled ground on it. Yeah.
You know, during the South African press conference,
I literally only watched like 5 minutes of it, and I was like, oh, this is too much.
It was crazy. But the first question by the press pool, they ask about the Qatar plane.
Yeah.
And Trump is just like, "Why? You are a terrible journalist."
Yeah.
It's like the legacy media can't help themselves. Billy 22. Same sleight of hand as saying Republicans are reducing A.G. Ellison's budget. Great point right there. Love it. Okay, so let's get back to let's see what Leavitt. I'm tell you what, I know a lot of people like her, and this is gonna be a very controversial thing, but I can't stand the press secretary. Honestly, I can't. She's just this like propaganda Barbie. I mean, no doubt we all know she's a good-looking woman, okay? But she's a propaganda Barbie. And listen to what she says. She literally says, this doesn't add to the deficit. That's just a straight-up lie. Listen to this.
Just a quick follow-up. Is the president okay with this bill adding to the deficit?
This bill does not add to the deficit. In fact, according to the Council of Economic Advisors, this bill will save $1.6 trillion. And the president absolutely understands and hears the concerns of fiscal conservatives and of Americans who want to get our fiscal house in order. That's what the intention of this bill is. There's $1.6 trillion worth of savings in this bill. That's the largest savings for any legislation that has ever passed.
Okay, now stop. And I don't even know what the $1.6 trillion of savings is, but it's probably another sleight of hand. And it's like over 10 years, they save from some expenditures that would have otherwise happened that didn't need to happen. And by the way, that's 10 years down the road. So let's just say the next Congress gets rid of him. So it's like that's a sleight of hand there. But just go back to that chart. Like what she's saying is just an utter straight lie. Why don't you levy with us? Can't you treat us like an adult? Tell us the truth, okay? Listen, I knew Trump was bad on this issue. I still voted for Trump. You know how crazy this is? This is the most important issue to me for the last decade, other than maybe endless wars. This is like the issue. And I still voted for Trump because I gave those reasons multiple times, but let's just be honest. There are other big issues that Trump was so much better than Kamala on. But he was terrible on this issue. I know he doesn't really care about the deficit. The proof is in the budgets. And it shows that it's going to add to the deficit. Oh, don't lie to us.
That's got to be a really interesting job to have. Like
I would never do it because you got to lie. You're a propagandist.
Liar, yeah. I mean, they're always like that. Like every single press secretary, what's your job? I go and lie on stage.
I know. My thing, your job is to spin. Mm-hmm. I believe telling the truth is the best course of action. Even, I'm loving the comments here because I thought I was going to come into a little bit of a firestorm today. I know we got a lot of Trump fans here. And I'm not fully hating on Trump, although there's due criticism of Trump. And I'm glad our audience gets it, okay? But you can understand there are going to be people that will come after me.
Yeah.
Just like they're doing with Thomas Massie, just like Donald Trump himself said about Thomas Massie. For telling the damn truth. Can't we tell the truth? Like, listen, just get past Republicans, Democrats. Get past that for a second and just ask yourself this question. I don't care whose budget it is. If it's adding to the debt, do you think that money printing and deficit spending is a path to prosperity? Do you? Do you really think that's a path to prosperity? And even if you think, well, Trump's got a plan, who's to say Republicans don't lose the U.S. House in November 2026, and that plan goes to shit quick. And if you don't believe that could happen, just look what happened under the first Trump term. He lost the midterms, and Nancy Pelosi was in charge again. And so, when you don't get it done right away, when you don't show us that you're willing to actually solve these problems, then I'm sorry, I just don't think we're going to solve those problems. And these are massive problems. I don't know anyone that can like objectively, honestly come debate me and tell me that deficit spending and money printing is a path to prosperity. It just isn't. If it is, I know nothing about finances. Cindy Lou says, I'm pissed. Brad Ganser, quit printing money or we are doomed. And that's where we're going on this all. Let's just be honest. In fact, Trump is actually giving tax cuts. You know, there's an argument against giving tax cuts because it just increases the deficit. However, there's an argument to be made that by decreasing taxes, it spurs on more economic activity. I'm more in that second camp. So, you know, and I don't like paying stuff to the government, right? And I pay my damn taxes to the government, even though I'm against it, because I don't want to be thrown in jail, okay? So I'm not going to hate on that part of it, but you got to get the spending under control, right? If you're going to reduce revenues temporarily, you need to reduce spending, but there's no appetite by these guys to do it.
When it comes to what you were saying about Trump bringing a lot of business in and making the GDP of the U.S. high enough to where it's like, you know, counteracting this debt that you're talking about, that in and of itself probably takes a while too, right? I imagine just like Nintendo, they want to sell stuff in America, they're gonna have to build it in America, right?
Yeah.
And like factories aren't built in a day, that kind of thing. Would this also be tying into this timeline of stuff, or is this totally separate from a growing economy?
Well, I think so, but I don't know how long the timeline is. I mean, with AI, you could probably expand the economy a lot quicker these days. In fact, AI has a lot of things that make it expand quicker, including AI knowing how to expand it quicker,
I
right?
see. Okay.
Razzle dazzle, unconstitutional big government bill will continue to lead the imminent demise of the USA. I don't think it'll into the demise of the USA. I think we'll have something called like a Great Depression era in America. And then real tough decisions are being made. And, you know, I have zero desire to run for U.S. Congress, but I think during that period, maybe it's time for me to run for Congress, because then I think my brand of politics will really work in solving the problem. That's the funny thing is, like, my brand of politics is clearly not winning the day right now, right? Like, no one, Thomas Massey and apparently Warren Davidson are the only ones voting against this. Like, this should be the most easy no vote. But people just fold under Donald Trump. You don't want to go against Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is wrong on this issue.
Why do you think Trump was going so hard on Massey in that clip that we showed?
That's his personality.
Really? Like,
yeah, and actually credit where it's due to Massey. It's like, don't feed into the thing. Like, at this point, don't let Trump just egg you on, you know?
Yeah.
He's got a base, and his people will come after you. I just hope, and that's where this show's going to go, is we're going to tell the truth. We're going to look into these things. When Trump's right, like we talked about the Qatar airplane the other day, right? We exposed the media for lying about that, okay? So we're gonna play both sides. We're just going to tell you what we believe to be true. And in this case, it seems like Thomas Massey is the truth teller here, you know? Now, is he grandstanding? I don't know. Maybe he's trying to help himself out. He did raise a lot of money. I'll probably donate to him again because of this issue. Gunner says the Fed removed the reserve ratio during COVID. It used to be 1 to 9. It's now 0. Inflation will run hot until the dollar is abandoned. And so I am glad Gunner brought this up. Okay, so we're not going to talk about the reserve ratio. We're going to talk about, and he's talking about in the banking industry. But let's just talk about the other big issue the Fed has is they buy up our debt. They try to manipulate the interest rate, but with Moody's downgrading the U.S. Treasury, or I should say government debt, which is dealt in treasuries, we got a really huge problem. Let's go to the A7. Now, I've been talking about this issue since 2012. I wrote an article, opinion piece in the Woodbury Bulletin. I have the physical copy. I don't think it's on the internet. Maybe you could find it, Dustin, someday. But I talked about what would happen when interest rates go up. For the longest time, we were so used to relatively zero interest rates, okay? A lot of that is the pressure the Fed puts on because they're the lender of last resort, and they don't have the money to do it. The Federal Reserve, which is a quasi-private government bank, they literally control the ability to I always say print money, but they don't really print the money. U.S. Treasury prints the money if they need the actual physical money. They just literally add a digital zero on a balance sheet, and then all of a sudden we can buy up our debt. So then essentially what you're doing is you're adding more money to the economy. Even if it's not printed out, you're adding more money because there's more money going around buying other things, okay? So that's how they inflate the currency. Old inflation was different, right? Like old inflation back in the Roman days, they would actually clip coins. They would take out metal content, melt that down to make new coins. That's why like the old coins were like not so round after a while, because government cheats. Governments cheat all the time. That's why we have ridges on the U.S. quarter. Did you know that? The ridges show that there's nothing that's happened to the U.S. quarter.
I always thought that was for blind people, but that makes sense. Yeah.
The other thing that's interesting is they could change the metal content. You know that, was it 1981 and before, the penny was copper? It's not copper anymore. It's mostly zinc. The reason it's not copper is copper's too expensive. It's more than 1 cent. They inflate by changing the metal content. Dawson, and by the way, what's the value of paper? You know, the paper money that we use, it used to say silver certificate. You could go to the bank and ask them for silver back. That's all it is. You know what it says on, you probably don't know this, on your dollar bill, it says Federal Reserve note. A dollar bill is a note to receive a payment of something of value. All it is paper, right? There's no value in that paper. The value of that paper, I think in its most basic sense would be the value of it heating up to provide fire, you know?
Yeah.
Right? I don't know what else.
The question of like how much is a human worth, just like chemically, that kind of deal. That makes sense.
Well, just there's no real value in that. No one cares because paper's so readily available.
Yeah.
You wipe your butt with more paper every day than there is in that dollar bill. Its value is so minimal. But what the value is supposed to be is it says a note. So you go to a bank and you go, give me my silver or my gold back. You go to the bank now, they'll laugh at you if you ask for that. That's what a silver certificate was. You could go to the bank and you get your silver back. Something of value. You know, it doesn't have to be silver. It could be like beaver pelts or oil. Something that maybe makes a little more sense today. But gold and silver makes sense because, you know, I know you probably didn't do this, but try getting married to a woman without giving her a gold ring, right? I mean, there's a reason gold has been found valuable. Women love it. There's other uses for it. Silver's got a lot of industrial uses, but gold is just universally recognized as something of value to people.
If that's the case, then I need to start investing in silicone because use it all the time.
All right, Dawson, go back to the U.S. Treasury. This is just the 5-year. Click on. You see where it says 5 years on that chart, so we can look at the 5-year span of it. So that's the U.S. Treasury in a 5-year span. So if you go back to 2021, it was about what we call 50 basis points, so 0.5%. So it went from 50 basis points, and it's increased to over 4% today. What's that, an 8-fold increase in interest rates? So when the U.S. government issues 5-year treasuries to lenders, that's either institutions, individual buyers, or the Federal Reserve buying it and printing money out of thin air, right? They're now obligated to pay back, let's say they borrow $10,000, they're obligated to pay back the lender $400 that year. Got it? So it's so before they would only pay him $50, now they got to pay him $400 on a $10,000 investment. That's the interest payment on the debt. So in the span of the last 4 years, because they're so reckless, and Moody's, once again, is downgrading the debt, and I think Standard & Poor's already did it, because this fiscal situation is just so problematic, the interest rates on the debt go up. Now, here's the deal. if all $37 trillion in government debt, just type in U.S. debt clock real quick. USDebtClock.org, Dawson. Tucker 91, make pennies great again. Marty 1967, I believe we are going back to the gold standard and the fiat currency will be no more. No, that we're not going to go that way. And Trump's not going to do that because guess what? Trump couldn't get away with what he's doing under the gold standard. So these guys don't want the gold standard. We want the gold standard. The gold standards would make America great again. They don't want it because they kind of want to cheat us. You know, then they would actually have to make decisions. Okay, you see on the very top left, that's the U.S. national debt. We keep saying $36 trillion. It's really $37 trillion. Round up, $36.88 trillion. Which, and just so you understand, because I think everyone that watches this show is probably a taxpayer, that's, Dawson, you owe $323,000. Can you write a check here, please?
No, I'm screwed.
Right. We're all screwed. We can't pay $323,000. God, like some of us, that's what we owe on our house right now. So that is what we are paying right now, or owe $37 trillion. Well, all that $37 trillion, if it was all issued in 30-year treasury bills, 30-year treasury bonds, then that means until 30 years is up, we don't have to pay that back. We just have to pay the interest on it. You know, that's how your bond works, is you pay, you borrow the money, and you don't pay back the principal to the end of the maturity. And the loaner is just receiving the interest payments. Let's just say it's annually, okay? They get the annual interest payments. And then once that maturity is done, then you get your principal back. And so if all our government debt was in 30-year bonds, then and locked in at, like, let's say 2%, this isn't as big of a problem. The issue is the majority of our government debt is issued in short-term treasuries, not 30-year bonds. Like, things that mature within 5 years. And all those interest rates are going up. And when they mature, we owe the principal back, and then we reborrow. We're not paying off the debt. We reborrow at a much higher interest rate, making the problem exponentially worse. Do you see the problem here? And this is what I wrote, and I used to come up with charts and how bad this was going to be, and it's far worse now. The interest payments on the debt, and it's in this U.S. debt clock, is currently standing at, let's see here. The interest on the debt, the net interest on debt right now is at $1 trillion, $1.025 trillion. You'll see it. Yeah, there you go. Just see, look to the left of that. All our defense, the military, is less than the interest payments on debt. Tell me now how that is a sustainable path. That's insanity. So we owe more on just servicing the debt than our whole defense budget, which is already bloated and overspending. So we have a huge issue here that's only going to get exponentially worse because Congress and Trump don't actually try to solve the problem. And so that...
Hey,
it kills me because I vote for a guy knowing that he wasn't going to solve this problem, and now here it is. I would just hope there were more actual fiscal hawks in Congress going, no, Trump, we love you. We love what you're doing with the border. Good job on that South African visit. But you're wrong on this issue, Trump. And we're there with you expanding this economy. We're there with your tax cuts. Put that in a separate bill. But we're not going to continue running these massive deficits and adding to our debt because our children are going to be the ones that pay it.
If they do that, do you think then Trump goes after them and says, you should be kicked out of the government? You don't know anything about government.
Yeah, and clearly that's why they don't do it.
That's not good. But hey,
I know, man.
On the bright side, looking at these numbers like this makes me feel a whole hell of a lot better about my checkbooks. How they're looking.
I know. It's actually kind of sad, like how bad our government is. But most people, I mean, a lot of people in our country are terrible. They're massively in debt.
It's true.
Especially student loan debt.
I know it.
Yeah. So
I'm actually good on student loan debt. I got lucky.
You got what?
I got lucky on student loan debt. I've only got $10K.
Oh, that seems so low these days.
Isn't that awesome?
Razzle Dazzle says Trump and rhinos are wrong indeed. Truth hurts. I know. Thank you, Razzle Dazzle. That's what the show's about. You know, we're catching a lot of flack these days. You know, This is no better in the state of Minnesota Republican budget. I don't need to bring that up again, but they just locked it. This is another way to put it. The Republicans have essentially locked in the Biden budgets. Like, Biden was a big spender, and you're just continuing on, just like Republicans in this state. You're continuing on the DFL trifecta's large spending. There is a uniparty. And if you are against the deep state, this is what funds it. Let's go into the next subject on Elon Musk, who was, I think, legitimately trying to defund the deep state. It's brought to you by Warren Wessel of Keller Williams Realty. If you're looking to buy a home or sell a home in this economy, some people have to sell homes or they have to buy new homes. And you better give Warren a call at 612-419-7453. And speaking of interest rates, if you're buying a new home, give John Galt Mortgage Company a chance at financing the home. You might find out they're better than all the other lenders. And they put their money where their mouth is. They believe in the cause. They believe in what we're talking about. I know Tim and Andrew would love what I am talking about today. They are in full agreement on this issue. And they're in the business of giving you the best rate possible on financing your new home. So go to johngaltmortgagecompany.com. Okay, let's talk about Elon Musk here. This is a fascinating thing. So what I started out, and I remember talking about Trump could be the best president we have, right? And it is still pretty early on his term, okay? I just don't like these things, it's like back of the campaign trail. Trump is like that ex-girlfriend you have, You're like, well, we broke up on the right reasons. She spent all my money. But then you're like, but man, she was so good when we went to Mexico, You're like, oh, but she made a really good point when it came to, Ukraine. Like, it just, you go back and forth on it. It's a natural thing, It's like Biden's easier. It's just like Biden was like never right. Okay? Like, I fundamentally disagree with how that guy sees the world. Trump, there are some things I really agree with him on, especially like the media. But it's just like, in the end of the day, we have got to stop the growth of government, which funds the deep state, which funds the swamp. And I thought he could be the best president if Doge really gets moving. And I once again, I don't know Elon Musk, and I don't know his heart. I can only judge by what I see of Elon Musk, which is very impressive. He's obviously an impressive individual, right? You don't build like the largest U.S. manufacturer of cars and build rocket ships and do tunnels underground and fly around the internet in the sky if you're not a smart, intelligent individual, okay? So the guy's obviously very impressive. I don't know his heart, but I agree with the way that he was approaching Doge. And that's the thing about this budget here. The budget grows government by $350 billion. So whatever Doge has found is going to be almost irrelevant because Congress and Trump didn't enact it into law. They could do it, but they're not going to do it. And the funding continues on. Let's go to Elon Musk. He's in a conference in Qatar, I guess. And he's being interviewed by Bloomberg News, I think. Bloomberg News, some journalists. He actually calls out his journalists. It's funny. Let's go to the B1. This is him talking about future political spending. This is very fascinating. Watch this.
You spent a lot more money on the last U.S. election than you envisaged when you were speaking here 3 years ago. Are you going to continue to spend at that kind of level on future elections?
I think in terms of political spending, I'm going to do a lot less in the future.
And why is that?
I think I've done enough.
Is it because of blowback?
Well, if I see a reason to do political spending in the future, I will do it. I do not currently see a reason.
Okay. And what about political influence beyond the U.S.? How often do you speak to President Putin?
That's what we really care about. Oh, wait, actually, go play that out. This is interesting. Watch this.
I don't speak to President Putin.
You've never spoken to President Putin?
I was on a video call with him once about 5 years ago.
Okay. That's the only.
Why would you think I speak to President Putin? Oh, you must. Oh, I get it.
Because
you
I've
believe
heard
the
you
legacy.
speak. Actually, I've heard you speak about it. For example, in your West Point speech, you said, "Oh, I challenged President Putin to was it an arm wrestle?" And I know the Wall Street Journal has reported your reported conversations.
Oh, yes.
If you're saying they haven't happened other than once, I'll take that as read.
Is there a worse publication on the face of the earth than the Wall Street Journal? I wouldn't use that to line up my cage for parrot droppings.
He's a very smart guy. You should be very careful when you do that bullshit against him. I gotta read this. Romorant. O'Bannon says, "I will believe Doge is a serious process when the Justice Department starts charging people for fraud." Exactly. Where are the rest? Where are the damn rest? You guys see Epstein or Kash Patel? We didn't talk about this on Tuesday, did we?
I don't think so.
Kash Patel and Dan Bongino now say that Epstein killed himself.
Maybe we kind of touched on it, but even Alex Jones was watching that and he's like,
dude,
they got to him.
You just can't tell us Epstein killed himself. Like, I'm sorry. The cameras went off in the ward. The security guard fell asleep. There's an autopsy by an independent, what do you call those guys? Pathologist that says that it was homicide, right? He's got to be one of the guys, like in the whole prison system in the country, got to be the guy that is most carefully watched on suicide watch. Is that Jeffrey Epstein? He didn't kill himself. Like, don't see. This is the thing. It's like with the Carolyn Levitt. Like, stop lying to us. Stop telling us things that are bullshit. That's what makes us mad. That's why Trump won. Dare I say, that's why Trump won. We got sick of politicians and the establishment lying to us, and then they just go do it again. God, so sad. Sergeant Schultz was manning the prison door, says Brad Ganser. I was going somewhere. Oh, yeah. I think it's so funny. Like, so you're talking to Putin, like he's just like, what are you talking about? These journalists, they can't help themselves. They just fall right back into the same old shit that they've done so long that people are starting to wake up and going, oh my God, these guys are liars. And I love how he just calls her out on it. Like, what? I challenge him on X, and that's like me talking to the guy. Like, I challenge him on. Oh, what a joke. All right. So then you watch that clip. I shouldn't even play that clip because it's a little off subject, but I just thought that was funny. The clip I really wanted you to see was not getting involved in political spending. And I watch this and I go, and Elon's such a bizarre dude, so I don't know how to read it, but I'm just like, God, this is really bizarre. Like, what? Why? Why is he not doing political spending? I'm going to guesstimate that he's probably sick of all the good work they did not being admired and actually instituted by Congress. Let's go with the B2 clip, Dawson, because I think he might actually be addressing that here, that is the issue that he sees. Watch this. This is talking about Doge is just an advisory group.
The magnitude of the savings is proportionate to the support we get from Congress and from the executive branch of the government in general. So we're not the dictators, we are the advisors. But thus far, for advisors, the Doge team, to their credit, has made incredible progress.
You've talked about $4 billion a day being saved,
this is good too.
But that won't get, which is, and I think everyone can agree that combating waste and inefficiency in government is a very good thing. But if you add that up, it's not going to get to $2 trillion over the lifetime of Doge.
I'm sorry.
The $4 billion a day, if Doge is going to run till next July, is not going to get you to $2 trillion. But you still say it's your aim, so we'll take that as read.
There's what Doge. I mean, I feel you're somewhat trapped in the NPC dialogue tree of a traditional journalist. So it's difficult when I'm conversing with someone who's trapped in the dialogue tree of a conventional journalist, because it's like talking to a computer. Doge is an advisory group. We are doing the best we can as an advisory group. The progress made thus far as an advisory group is excellent. I don't think any advisory group has done better in the history of advisory groups of the government. We do not make the laws, nor do we control the judiciary, nor do we control the executive branch. We are simply advisors. In that context, we are doing very well. Beyond that, we cannot take action beyond that because we are not some sort of imperial dictator of the government. Mm-hmm. There are three branches of the government that are to some degree opposed to that level of cost savings. But nonetheless,
okay. So let's stop right there. And by the way, I love how he just undresses this reporter because she's just so absurd and just trying to.
I think that's all he has.
If you're reporting, you're trying to like get him, like Elon Musk. You might just think. At any point, did you realize that maybe he's just a little smarter than you and is not going to fall to your trap? Because I've seen interview after interview where he doesn't fall prey to these things. What's up,
that second one the first one makes sense where the Putin thing that like
ridiculous,
yeah,
right?
Dumb. That second one though, he
explains it. Dawson, I cut it off.
So he does talk about how they're not getting to $2 trillion.
Well, he's kind of leading into it. This is what there was actually two really interesting things from this clip. What I'm trying to get to is that I might think that his reasoning for political expenditures is that fact that he can't change it because there's no will by the people in power, and he's only an advisory group. So he's kind of getting to the point is that if these $2 trillion was to get instituted, it's far beyond the scope of just their initial work. You know, it has to be instituted by Congress, has to be signed by the president, can't be rejected by court decisions, right?
Wouldn't he have known that like the entire time though?
You know, as smart of a guy as he is,
I mean, yeah, he's a brilliant trillionaire or whatever, but he can't foresee that Congress won't want small spending. I don't know. I think that he gave a big number.
I think I could
to pull it back.
I think I get duped by this stuff all the time. I mean, he wasn't a political expert, that's for sure. He's not a political expert. Neither was Trump when he first ran, although he got smart pretty quick. I mean, Trump had you were here. You were here the night of the election. Did Trump not have the biggest mandate you've seen in a long time in politics? Well, probably in your life. You know, that was a mandate. All 7 battleground states went to Donald Trump. He won the popular vote, which hasn't happened by a Republican since 2004, George W. Right? Do I have that right? I think George W. won. It's been a long time. That was a mandate of huge levels. And so if you're Elon, you might think, hey, and because I was a big part of this, we can get something done. And maybe he's learning. And I'm reading into it, guys. I don't know. But is this how you see it? Like, maybe he's realized this is a bad bet. These guys aren't going to change it. If I'm him, I'm finding ways to protect myself from a down economy, what I would consider a Great Depression.
The first thing that my brain goes to, so I don't have as much goodwill I don't give him as much grace as you do, I think. I'm not a fan of Musk just in general because he's not a gamer. But the reason that I think that he's stepping away from politics spending and stuff is because it definitely wreaked a lot of havoc on his companies. Like, people got angry. People were burning his cars. People were his stocks were going down, and Tesla and all that stuff. And as a businessman, which I think he is first and foremost over a politician for sure, like, you can't have that. Your businesses need to thrive.
Can I stop you right there, Dustin?
Yeah, sure.
And I don't know Elon Musk, okay? I don't know the man's heart. And if I met him one time, I still would say I don't know the guy. You'd have to get to know him, right? But there is a possibility. Can you humor me and admit that there's a possibility the guy is genuinely trying to solve a really big problem, the problem that we talked about at the beginning of the show, and he was willing to sacrifice his position with his companies and maybe his personal wealth to get there. And maybe he's realized that sacrifice isn't worth it because I can't solve that problem. Congress doesn't have the willingness to do it.
I think that would be the best will argument. That, like, if you were seeing the best in him, like he's an angel investor, then yeah, I that would probably be the answer. But I think that mostly his businesses have to come first in his mind. Like, that's what he is. That's where his wealth is. And
Well,
stuff.
hold on. No, I would say the country's got to come first. Like
He's South African first.
No, he's really American at this point. I
Is
mean, he
he?
is an American citizen. He was born in South Africa.
Is he an American citizen?
Yeah, he's an American citizen.
It's
He's a
a
voting
question.
American citizen.
Yeah. No, I'm making.
Those are the kind of immigrants we want. Highly productive immigrants, right?
Yeah, I think that a lot of it comes down to it's so interesting because like so we disagree on climate change stuff, right? One of the big things about that is EV vehicles. EV vehicles are seen as a bad thing, right?
I disagree with Elon Musk on climate change.
Right. And then it comes to Elon Musk is now talking to the government saying, hey, buy some cyber trucks for your military, buy Starlink for stuff. I personally feel like it was a way to get rid of restrictions for his work that he wants to do, and two, maybe he just likes Trump. Maybe, I mean, the rich tend to like each other, and so, making that connection was probably a part of it, and maybe he liked being the center of attention for a little while too.
Well, and I've said this on the show many times, like, and I don't know the guy, right?
Yeah.
And we should, and the left is right about their hesitation or skepticism of billionaires. Now, they're big hypocrites, a lot of them, because they don't seem to have a problem with George Soros.
Yeah.
We should be skeptical of the world's wealthiest, including the world's wealthiest man. What I'm doing is I'm taking the words from his mouth that I've seen in the last year or two where he's been highly political, and it's similar to what I've been saying on this show, which I've come to that conclusion well over a decade of studies and thinking about that subject. I know a lot about that subject.
Which is reducing spending.
I just did a freaking hour on that subject with very little prep. What's that?
Which is reducing spending is what you're talking about.
Yes, and the problem with government debt. Like he's been sharing Milton Friedman and people like from the Mises world, and you're talking about Ron Paul, like this is awesome stuff that we saw from Elon Musk. And Doge, oh my God, that is exactly what needs to happen. And it was a brilliant thing that happened. And I see this and I go, man, if this guy's got his head straight and he's like genuinely trying to solve this problem, at some point he's going to realize maybe we can't solve this problem. He's the best guy set up to solve this problem. He's got complete access to Donald Trump to the point where the left just calls him the de facto president. We didn't vote for Elon Musk. Like, Elon Musk is in a position to get things done, and Doge isn't getting done, and I don't fault it on, I don't think it's Elon that's the reason, or his coders. It's Congress. It's these lying, self-serving politicians. And so I think that's what Elon's saying here is, hey, I don't know if I really want to put so much money into the game when the game is rigged against what I'm trying to solve. And from his perspective, because you could definitely think he's just trying to enrich himself with government contracts. I understand that, and you should be skeptical of that. But I also think, hey, if I am building all this stuff, all these businesses, I would rather a thriving economy than one that's hampered by enormous amounts of debt and money printing. Businessmen want stability, right?
Yeah. Honestly,
and there's no stability with what we're doing fiscally.
Honestly, it's probably a mix of all of it. Like humans
and that's true. It could be a mix of all those things. You're right.
Like, yeah, I would love to be able to get inside his brain. Maybe I should invest in some Neuralink and have him put one in, and then I can read it on my phone or something. But that's not happening quite yet. So
pull up the B3. This is Jeffrey Tucker, one of my favorite economists, Mises economists. My heart truly goes out to Elon Musk. He bought this platform to counter censorship, and it worked, fundamentally changing public culture just in time. He still doesn't get credit for that, although we credit him all the time for that, because that is a really good thing that he did, right? He clearly overpaid for Twitter. I mean, Twitter's a joke, but it was important that he bought it. He saw an existential threat from the then existing regime and tried to make a difference. He spent countless hours and enormous human energy putting together Doge and discovering vast scandals in government. He believed he could make a difference. Then media and the political machine began to eat him and smear him, and he saw Congress essentially dismiss all Doge efforts, and he was blocked in a myriad of ways. I worry that his efforts will stand as a warning to other business people. Don't try to improve the world and stay out of politics. He has been punished for trying to do the right thing.
So people, Congress saying, hey, we're going to block stuff that you're doing. Do you think that was part of what happened because of the outcry that was happening with people?
Oh, yeah, politicians get scared very easily.
Yeah, I have to admit, because you saw those videos all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
people were screaming and yelling and blah 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 blah. So, I mean, but that is kind of, I mean, is that a good thing? To have the people in a district be like, hey, we don't like this, and then
it's their right to do it. 100% it's their right to do it. You know what? I just have a problem with their fundamental belief that government should keep expanding, because that's the, like, I mean, you're not that political, but do you think I laid out a decent argument on how this growing government debt is a problem? Like, just imagine, because we're going to have to work with Democrats. Okay, let's say I run the Republicans, and I got to work with Democrats. What I would do is I'd come to the table and I'd go, listen, guys, the debt has got to stop. We are going to balance the budget, okay? There's no sacred cow on this table in front of me. That includes the military, okay? We're going to fund the military. We're still going to have military, right? But that doesn't mean the military can't be cut, and can't be cut by a lot. We're all going to come to the table, and the end result of what we figure out is going to be that there's a balanced budget. Okay, now let's talk about how we do it. I'm going to make the first proposal. We're overspending by 25%, so 25% cut across the board. That's the start. All right, let's start discussing. And then, and the Democrats won't even want to play this game, and neither would the Republicans, to be honest with you, because they're all going to start messaging, oh, they want to cut Medicare, they want to cut Medicaid, and they want to take away your Social Security payments, and we'll never solve the fucking problem, because everyone's got their sacred cow. And meanwhile, and this is the thing that really gets me, Dawson, I'm going to go there, but, we care about the elderly vote, okay? We care so much about the elderly vote, and we can't cut their Medicare or their Social Security, even though it's them that voted in the politicians that bankrupted those programs. And it's like, wait a second. If we can't cut that, who's going to pay for this? Because guess what? It's adding to our debt. Oh, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren are going to pay for it. Oh, okay. I think most grandparents care a lot about their grandchildren, to the point where maybe, just maybe, if we had a politician being honest that there's a massive problem and we got to stop the debt because our great-grandchildren and our grandchildren are paying for that, my damn children are paying for it, then maybe we could start solving these problems. Everyone comes to the table, and we're just, the end result's going to be a balanced budget. And just so you know, a balanced budget doesn't solve the problem, because we still have $36 trillion of debt in perpetuity if it's a balanced budget. You actually have to have surpluses to pay down the debt.
What you started touching on right there about the elderly are voting in these people who are essentially bankrupting their kids, I think that's like a big reason of what I had told you earlier, where like some young guy on the Democrats party side was like ousted, like he was like tossed out because whatever dumb thing happened. But I think that old people just don't want to like give up the young people to get into Congress or whatever, because they're like, wait, that young person isn't getting Medicare or Medicaid or anything like that. We need to stop them from doing it. I think it's probably a problem with having a senile
Well,
government.
I think people are disconnected because they don't think of it this way, like what it's doing to the youth. Like and it's starting to reveal in like stats. Home ownership, first-time homeowners, that age is like going up like big time. Like young kids are not buying homes. I mean, you're in that market, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Is that dream? That doesn't even seem like a possible. Yeah. You know how sad that is, Dawson. And you're, what are you, 27?
26.
You're 26 years old, and kind of getting married. I don't know. You always say you're getting married. I don't know what that is all
Chad
about.
doesn't think I'm getting
married. You guys have promise rings, whatever.
No.
You're thinking about starting a new family.
Yep. 26
years old. You know, the greatest generation, they were buying homes at 26 years old and starting families. And you just said it, and you're exactly what we see out right now in the economy is that's not even a dream for you guys right now.
It's just not feasible with prices how they are.
Isn't that sad?
Something that I've been seeing a lot of is like a lot of young people on TikTok, on YouTube, blah, blah, blah. They're saying, we want to start a house, but we can't. Boomers are using houses like trading cards, where it's like, just sell it to the next guy who will hold it for a while and then sell it to somebody else, and then a rental company will come out and buy up all of the houses in this neighborhood and rent it out. You don't get to. It's the globalist thing that you talk about, where it's like you will own nothing and you will be happy.
Oh, it's happening.
It's crazy.
It's happening.
So
they're squeezing the younger generations where they can't be in an ownership society. I used to think it was just their personal preference, but in many regards, I think it's just out of necessity. They can't own.
It's true.
Let's go to the B4. This is Clint Russell. Great Twitter account if you want to follow it. Actually, it says I'm not subscribed to him. How am I not subscribed to him?
Subscribe.
Okay.
Paid.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, careful.
Well, maybe I should because he's got a good enough account. There you go. Give him a paid subscribe. Clint Russell says the richest man in America, a guy who builds spaceships and robots and underground tunnels and brain chips and AI superintelligence, couldn't reform the government. He couldn't cut any spending. In fact, we are on track to spend more this year than any year ever. Not actually, that's not true. Obviously, we spent more in 2020 and 2021, but pretty close, right? Certainly increasing the deficit. We're in trouble. And that's a great point. That is such a good point. Like, we are literally in a world of hurt when Doge can't, and like the guy that seems to be able to solve problems is, Andy said his autism. He likes to solve puzzles. That he can't even solve this problem. And he's in the position. He's the one guy in a position to actually do something about it. Yeah, man, I just, well, there's a reason I'm a prepper. I'll put it that way. You know, there's a reason my portfolio is diversified.
Let me know once that prepping course is built up, and I'll take that one too. It'll be great.
Yeah, I love how much you got into firearms since taking my firearms course.
I can't have another hobby to spend money on, but I'm addicted already.
That house just keeps going further away for you. Okay, let's talk about this a little bit more in the post show. I can't believe it. I was like, Jesse's not here. We might have a short show. It turns out, Dawson, when I get on a rant on a topic like this that I've studied for a long time, I guess I can go quite a long time. I'll be on Andy's show, too. I don't know when that will be aired, but Andy and I will talk about that. Andy was a congressional chief of staff, so should be a really fun conversation. He agrees with me on it, so it's not going to debate. I'd love to debate someone on this topic. Wouldn't that be fun? Michelle Fischbach was bragging about this big, beautiful bill. Maybe she'll come on and debate me about it. You know, in the end of the day, these guys are not solving problems. They are delaying the inevitable disaster. We need to solve this damn problem. I am so motivated to solve this problem. But unfortunately, like Elon's probably realizing, I don't think there's going to be an appetite in Washington, D.C. anytime soon. I've certainly watched these guys, these bozos, continue on this reckless spending. And we're being downgraded in terms of credit rating. And you know, honestly, the U.S. government is defaulting on debt. If we're just being honest, if they have to print money to buy debt, then they've defaulted on the debt because the value of that dollar is diminished, directly responsible or directly due to what they're doing. And it's like, well, okay, so the government gave you your $1,000 on that debt principal on that bond that you bought, but it's worth less money. That's defaulting on the debt. Like, you don't have to just give back less money. You loan them $1,000, you get $900 back to default. If it's only worth $900, even though it says $1,000 on that note, if it's only worth $900, that's a default. I can't buy as much stuff anymore. All right. So much to talk about. So much to talk about in the post show. I'm going to really unleash in the post show. Join us. If you're not a member, premium subscriber, go to truthhurtsnews.com. Click on support us on the top. You get a free locals account. Otherwise, if you're on Rumble, click on join. And for $8 a month, you can support the show. Or $88 a year, you get a month off if you do a year. Okay? Yeah, let's talk more about this issue. And another thing that might be on my mind, too. All right, so that's on the post show. Thank you to Warren Wessel of Keller Williams Realty. If you're looking to buy a home or sell a home, give my good friend Warren a call at 612-419-7453. If you're looking to buy a home, go to johngaltmortgagecompany.com. Thank you to Alpine Coventry in the great city of St. Cloud, Minnesota. O'Bannon was I think we had one Rumble rant. It was O'Bannon. That's Jesse's job usually. We're praying for Jesse to get better. I really wish we had a chance to have Jesse on the show. I really wonder how he would have addressed this subject. That would have been fun. One update on the Minnesota legislature. They blew past their deadline, so it seems like the special session won't at least occur until next Tuesday because we got Memorial Day weekend, Tucker writes, and I hope you guys all have a great Memorial Day weekend. I personally lost people I served with in the military. I also had this weird circumstance that in my small graduating class of 250 people in high school, 2 of those guys died in Afghanistan. So Adam and Nick. Adam and I played football together. Nick and I were climbing buddies, used to go scuba diving together. I didn't see him much post high school. So Adam went into Air Force special operations, and Nick went into he ended up getting into West Point. I think he did ROTC somewhere in Florida, and then got into West Point as like a sophomore, junior. And I feel like he was the 101st Airborne. I can't remember what he was with, but he got killed in Afghanistan. Adam first. Adam, I think, was still deployed in Kosovo, and then Nick was a little later. No, I got that wrong. Nick, right? No, I went to Nick's funeral, so I was just back from Kosovo. I remember going to his funeral, and I didn't even have my uniform right. I had just literally got back from a deployment, and I wanted to go on my dress screens. I didn't even have like all the ribbons and everything right for my uniform. I didn't even have the right rank. I didn't have any PX I went to. I just literally got back. So, remember those people that pay the ultimate sacrifice. And I'll tell you this, from a veteran's perspective, knowing the people that paid the ultimate sacrifice, at least in my era, those guys would want you to grill brats and burgers and drink beer and have a damn good time. But it's important to remember those people that paid the ultimate sacrifice, heroes that gave us this great country. And I hope to God we don't destroy this country through the burden of debt. We are the greatest country that's on this planet ever in history, and it's paved by the men and women who put their self on the line to protect ourselves, to protect our country from foreign threats. And the way I look at it is this country is going to fail not from the foreign threats, it's going to fail from the internal threats. And those are the self-serving politicians that are driving up the debt. So there you go. That's my thoughts on Memorial Day, if you're asking. Let's talk about this in the post show. We'll be live in 1 minute. For everyone else, we'll be back on Tuesday. Take care.